The new year. My name is Alexis Rogers and I'm the customer relationship lead here at RightCapital. And I want to welcome you to our starting the year off RightCapital webinar. Thank you for taking some time out of your first Friday of the 2024 year to walk through some of the different steps and tips and tricks as we're starting the new year. And we're going to be reviewing a lot of great content today, including a checklist of what you can also utilize when you are reviewing client plans at the beginning of this year. Today we're going to be exploring a comprehensive checklist to help you navigate the financial landscape successfully in the coming year and to engage clients and have some sort of communication with your clients about what you might need, but also how to enhance your own workflows, leveraging the tools that are within RightCapital to really fine tune your process as we start off the year. And so, like I said, we've got a lot of great content we're going to be going through today, but we're going to be covering that task checklist that I'm going to highlight with you guys today that you can also copy yourself. We're going to be looking at identifying various life events that can present planning opportunities for you as the advisor and for a more personal approach for client experience as well, and how you can get that information and how you can leverage it to a more personal approach. We're also going to be looking at updating their profile entries to align with some of the New Year's changes and some of the things that might be happening when we have shifting priorities over time, especially before that first of the year meeting to have that checkpoint conversation about what their new life events might look like for 2024 and if anything's changed since your last meeting. And of course, as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to navigate to the questions menu drop down and just input your questions there. And I'm more than happy to engage with you guys that way as well. And so shifting gears into RightCapital, the first thing that we're going to be highlighting today is going to be that tasks template in that task checklist. And so one of the ways you can really enhance your own workflows, especially with the start of the year, 2024, might be an opportunity for some new workflows for yourself, but something that is leveraged to really ease your use of RightCapital are those templates. And so in order to access those templates and to start to curate those to the best of your capability, we're going to navigate to the gear icon in the upper right-hand corner and into templates. And here in templates is where we'll find report templates, planning access templates, snapshot templates, task and vault templates. For our conversation today, we're going to be looking at task templates because that's going to be something that we are going to be reviewing how you can utilize a task checklist for yourself and also maybe clients if you choose to engage clients within RightCapital directly. This can be leveraged to alleviate a lot of your own workflows and engagements for yourself. And so today we're going to be looking at the starting the year off right checklist. But just so you guys know, if you wanted to curate your own template, you would just click the add template button. And when you do so, this opens up a field for you to retitle this checklist to your liking. So if you wanted to retitle it, you just click on the pencil icon and you can name this whatever you want and hit the check mark to save the name change, and you can start to add tasks from here. But for right now, I'm going to give you guys a second to peruse the starting the year off right checklist, and we're going to walk through a little bit of what can be utilized when we have this particular checklist. So some of the things that are on this task template is going to be those starting items. So number one is going to be looking at connecting with the client, and this can be something that is due for yourself or for clients. So like I said, if you do engage clients in RightCapital, if you have chosen to invite a client to RightCapital and you are giving them access to tasks and you wanted to engage them that way, this is an opportunity for you to leverage the task templates to assign to the clients. And you can have this be a task assigned to both you and the clients as a checkpoint. So in this first one, I have the task set out to book some time to connect and review our plans for the new year. This will be that preliminary meeting to start off the year right. You can include your calendar link or however you might have the opportunity for clients to book time with you. And you can set this due date here with a task template. One of the key things, just to walk through the process of what it looks like when we add tasks here, is when we click on add task, you can set that initial due date, so how long you want to grant clients or yourself in terms of from when you assign the task to completion, how long you want them to be able to have to complete it before it gets overdue. So let's say we wanted to add an additional task, a reminder for yourself in 60 days. From the assign to dropdown, this is where you assign who is responsible for the task. So whether it's going to be the client, the co-client, the advisor, or everybody is going to be involved in this. If this is something that's for the advisor themselves and you don't want the client to see it, for example, that's when I'd select the advisor name. You can also mark the priority if this is a high priority task, if it's low priority, or if there's no particular priority. And so this one, I'm having the intention of the task is going to be reviewing the client plan to see if there have been any, if there needs to be any updates. And since I want this to be just a task for myself as the advisor, that's when this eye icon becomes relevant. So right now it's visible to the client, but if I want this to be hidden, I don't want the client to be able to access this. If I've granted them access to RightCapital, I'm going to make sure that the eye icon displays the hidden emoji. And so this can be that checkpoint, just a little bit of a thing for me to go in 60 days after I start this task template list to come in and review their plan. And so that's the process for creating a task. But some of the things that I have in the starting the year off right checklist is going to be that number one reminder of let's book some time in 30 days or however long you want to grant them to be able to book some time. Like I said, this is just the template. So we're going to move on in a couple seconds to show how we can apply this and activate this template in a specific client or across all clients. But for right now, we're creating that template to use and apply across multiple clients. The second task that I have here is going to be having the client upload their latest statements to the vault for both bank and investment accounts. If they're not linking their accounts or if we don't have them linked from another source like an integration, that's when these statements can be extremely helpful. And so I have that initial reminder to upload those latest statements to start the year off right. The same is for the debts or liabilities. I have that broken out for those credit card and loan statements. And this depends upon how you have their accounts connected to RightCapital. If you're manually entering them, that's when these statements are really helpful. But if you have them linked or have them coming in from another source, then there might be a different approach to how you might communicate updates to accounts. The next task that we have here is going to be reviewing the client's net worth and updating it with the latest statements that we have in the vault. Or if you have a different communication line or a different access to their accounts, if you manage them or if you have them linked, you can still review the net worth to make sure everything's up to date in terms of who owns what, if anything changed, or if you want to leave notes in a specific account. This particular task is hidden from the client and is assigned just to me as the advisor. So this is just something for my own workflow that I have as a reminder to make sure I'm reviewing everything accurately. And so that's the great thing about these task templates is you can have them be assigned to yourself, be hidden, and just be for your own purposes to enhance your own workflows and have your own reminders to do things. But it can also be leveraged for your communications with the clients and to have a little bit more of a client engagement and review their activity in RightCapital. And then I also have another task just to confirm that the client booked time, especially if I have it with a calendar link and maybe I don't have notifications up, just to make sure to check in to see if I need to send out a reminder or call them, things like that. And then we also have another task. So for a lot of the clients that we're gonna be reviewing today and the sample client we're gonna be working on today, they have a budget built out. And so we have a priority here, like it's a lower priority task, but we wanna review their 2023 budget and discuss if there's any adjustments that need to be made for 2024. So we're going to be looking at those key insights to see if that 2023 budget is indicating a particular habit of spending, or if we need to make an adjustment in the future spending and reprioritize our budget. We also have a task assigned to everybody to discuss any changes to income for 2024. So very common with the beginning of the year, especially if somebody's gonna be changing jobs. Hopefully they've already have told you as the advisor that they're gonna be switching jobs. But regardless, typically the beginning of the year is when most employers or employees will have income reviews or bonuses or maybe hopefully pay raises. So it's a good opportunity to have that checkpoint. This is a task that's assigned to everybody. So that if the client has access to, they can also update their own income, but also have that discussion with you about if there have been changes to their income sources, what that means for them, And on that same note, reviewing if there's been any changes to contribution elections for 2024. So especially if you have employers that might be switching their 401k holders or their 401k offerings, or maybe their compensation packages, that's that key point in time, the beginning of the years, where we're going to see some of those changes happen. So for now, I have that as part of the starting the year off right checklist. So that way we can review and make adjustments as necessary if we are having those adjustments. And contributions, maybe employer matching is going to be a little bit more aggressive this year, hopefully, so we can make those adjustments. We also have one that's dedicated to the advisor. And this is going to be for myself for reviewing the data entry, the profile, the goals, the retirement analysis, and our action items to ensure that everything is set to reflect 2024 goals and that it's been adjusted considering that 2023 is passed and anything that might be in 2023 has already been completed. So we don't want to incorporate in 2024's cash flows, things like that, which we're going to view a little bit later. We also have another task to just check in with the client. So especially for that client meeting, to see if there's been any major life events that's going to be causing some difference in tax adjustments potentially. So things like getting married, if they plan on moving, if there has been any shift in priorities. And so this is more of a reminder for myself to have that conversation to kind of gauge where the client's headspace is at and if there's going to be any adjustments in the future. And then we also have a task that, once again, this is more advisor facing. We're going to be reviewing some of the opportunities that can be found under RightIntel to see if there's anything that might be coming up as a planning opportunity for key events for the client. And this is just for the advisor themselves. This is what I have marked as just private. And some other things that might be changing, we're going to be walking through this a little bit later, is reviewing changes that might have happened to healthcare premiums if healthcare insurance elections have changed for the client. And then finally, the one that we just add is going to be reviewing that client plan just to see if there's any adjustments. And so this is what I have curated for my starting the year off right checklist. I'm going to give you a second if you need to take a screenshot or anything like that. This is what it looks like for me, but of course you can curate your own checklist and assign it to whoever you need or make different tasks for whatever your target niches might be. So maybe if you've got student loans that is a focus for you, you might have a task that looks at specifically student loan adjustments and if we need to do anything different with income reporting and things along those lines. So the great thing here is this is fully customizable and you can create several different templates for maybe your different client groups and have it be customized for each scenario. But that is just how we can curate those templates and review that checklist. When we navigate to the task section, this is your task management profile. And so one of the things that can be used within this is to leverage this as another enhancement to your workflows. Here is a space where we can manage tasks and view them all across all clients. And we can also see whose tasks are assigned to who. So if I've got tasks just assigned to me, I can quickly toggle to that option and I can see what might be overdue for myself, what is still due in the future, and what I've completed. So I can have that checkpoint for myself to see this is what I need to do for this client, and this is what needs to be shifted into maybe completed if I've already done that. So this is a good space to check in to see if we need to complete any tasks at the beginning of the year if they're no longer relevant. But this is also a space where you can see what is assigned to clients and what is their duties to complete. And we can see what's been completed across different clients and what's overdue. And this can be broken up by individual clients as well, but we're going to move on a little bit later to a specific client to show that impact on the individual client. But this is really intended to be a task management section. So you can really see and isolate here who might have a lot of overdue tasks, whether it's yourself or a specific client, and if there needs to be any conversations about, for Jane Smith, for example, we're really overdue with updating salary information. So maybe we need to have a conversation about updating the salary information, or since this is due in 2021, probably have already had that conversation and we actually need to put this into the completed section, which we can do by just dragging and dropping this task to the completed field. And once we hit confirm, that's moved that over to completed. So this is just a space to manage your tasks. But this is also a space that you can add tasks across multiple clients as well. So if we click on add tasks, you do have the option to add a single task. So if you're not going to use a task template and you wanted to maybe send out a task reminder to your clients to book time with you, for example, you do have the option to add that single task. You can assign that due date, the frequency of the task, whether it's gonna be a one-time task, monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, or annually. This case, it would be a one-time task. And then you can select which clients this is intended for. So if it's gonna be for all clients, you can select that. You can also assign this to specific client groups, and even individually selecting which client you want to assign this to. So if this is going to be for all clients, we can select that from the list. And then we can assign who is responsible for the task, so whose duty it is to complete this. If this is a task that's meant for everybody, we can select that from the list, and we can mark that priority here. And of course, if we want the client to be engaged here, we want to make sure it's visible to the client. And then if this is going to be something where we just send that one task for the calendar link, you can type that out here. And then when you hit save, that would be assigning it to all clients. But in this case, we have our task template. We've streamlined that workflow. We can apply that by going to task template. And then you do have the option to search for a task template. So if you've got a lot populated, that can streamline that a little bit. I only have a few, so I can just select the start of the year off right checklist. And then from here, I can assign the due date. So if I want to have this be due February 5th, I can select that from here. But maybe I want to give myself some time and maybe the client some time to review changes. And I can have this be due for the beginning of March, for example. And so here below, you will see what tasks are going to be assigned to who. This will be that moment for review for all those tasks that you've added to the task template. And you can select the clients that we're assigning this to. So if we are going to be assigning across all clients, if you are ready to have that checklist applied to all clients, you can select that from the list. But similar to adding a single task, you can also assign them to specific client groups. So if you know that your client tier 2 is ready to have that conversation about our checklist, and you are also ready to do that checklist as well, we can assign it from here. But you can also search for specific clients as well from the list. So there's a lot of functionality in terms of who you can include in this conversation. And so let's say I want to apply this to my student loan client group. I can just quickly hit the save button, and that'll apply that across multiple clients. So that's where this task management profile can come in handy, is when we are trying to apply this across multiple clients, you can streamline that workflow all from your task management section. Another thing that can streamline your workflow, especially when you have a long list of clients, is if you are going to be providing anything in the beginning of the year in terms of documents or files or folders, you also have a Vault folder management profile. That can be accessed via the Vault folder in the upper right-hand corner. And here's where we can see that Vault management section. You can review what is in each client's Vault by just clicking on their name, seeing what is located here. But at the beginning of the year, if you're going to be uploading documents and you wanted to grant that to multiple clients across the board, rather than going into each individual client, you do have this Vault folder available to you to share documents. And so let's say, for example, I wanted to share either my checklist with clients, or I have a data collection template to share with them, or anything along those lines. This can be a space to share that as well. But let's say I actually wanted to upload a Happy New Year postcard or a sort of flyer to get them engaged at the beginning of the year. I can do so from the Vault folder as well. So under Shared Documents, I can click on Add File, and I can drag and drop from my computer, and I can upload that nice little postcard for them. And so we can also retitle this. So if we don't like the name that came with, you can also rename it if needed. And you can also download this yourself or delete it. But if we wanted to share this across multiple clients, that is when we navigate to the access control section. And from here, you can share this across all clients, specific client groups, or you can start to select specific individual clients from this list. But let's say I did want to show this across all clients. I want to give them this Happy New Year postcard and have this other layer of engagement. So when they log in, and if they have access to RightCapital, if I've engaged them that way and I've granted them access to the Vault, they'd also be able to review this in their own vaults, and it can be a nice little personal touch at the beginning of the year. So this is another way to have that streamlined communication across multiple clients that can really alleviate a lot of what you might have been doing individually for each client and have it be streamlined into this one space within your management profiles. Another tip for starting the new year, this can be found under the RightIntel module over here and under opportunities. So here under RightIntel opportunities, at the beginning of the year, this is probably where we're going to be looking at potential opportunities to plan for, especially for the client we're going to be working on today. If we wanted to look at what their opportunities might look like, here we can see a lot of different opportunities. For starting with the cash section, we can review what is available in cash. So maybe for my John Travolta client, we see we've got a large cash balance here. So maybe that's when we're going to have the conversation with John this year about investing some of that into a portfolio you might manage. We can see the same for assets held away. So we can see what assets are already held away and what might be an opportunity for you if you are investing or into investment management. We can also look at the debt opportunities, meaning what client might have the most in debt. So John Travolta has a lot of cash held away, but also has extremely large balances in debt. So maybe that's when we have a conversation this year with that particular client about what debt we need to pay down, if we need to have a discussion about debt pay down tactics. And this is all just a way that you can have a little bit more of a keyed in and personal approach to communications with clients. This can grant you key insights to clients' behaviors, but also allow for you to have a more in-tune approach and communication with clients. The same thing is true under insurance. You can see whose insurance policies are expiring and when. So here we've got one that's already expired in 2021, but we have some that are going to expire in a couple of years. But this is a good space to check in to see if somebody has insurance that's expiring this year and if we need to have a conversation about looking at different policies. Very importantly though, and my favorite part of RightIntel opportunities is going to be the key event. This is extremely insightful in terms of planning for this year. So under key events, this is where we will see who has upcoming key events. And just so we know what the key events are and what the key event triggers are, that's going to look at when we have somebody that's going to be retiring soon, that's going to be close to Social Security filing age, Medicare filing, if they are reaching the age 50 catch-up contribution age, if they're going to be reaching age 59 and a half and can have some penalty-free withdrawals. And we're also going to have a key event for reaching RMD age. So these are all key planning opportunities. And especially, for example, with my client, Irene Adler, she's going to be reaching age 50 in May 2024. That's an opportunity for us to have additional savings and maybe to have that preemptive discussion of you're turning 50 soon, so we have an additional opportunity to save more and to build our retirement portfolio. So this is a great space to have a lot of condensed information in one space that you can review without needing to go and remember, I've got somebody retiring soon, next year, so on and so forth. This is a space to manage all of that and to review who might need additional conversations. So if we had somebody that was retiring soon, maybe that's when I would assign a task template to set up some time, but also to have retirement tasks completed, or to have that more personal approach of, hey, I remembered you talked about retiring soon. Is that still the case, or should we be shifting priorities? Has anything changed since we last talked about you retiring? So a lot of great information can be found here. One thing to know is that you can look at this across all time to see when key events have happened. You can look at things that are going to be happening this month, which for me is none, but we can also look at what may be coming up next year. So just started 2024, so there's some time before 2025. But if you wanted to have some key insights into what is coming up in 2025, so that way you can be extremely preemptive and see who might have different discussions. For example, I've got some couple clients that are going to be retiring in 2025. Maybe that's when we want to talk this year and talk to see if there's anything that has shifted in terms of our goals. If we actually want to look at retiring sooner or maybe later, or if any of our priorities have changed. So a lot of key insights can be found here. You can also download these into an Excel file. So you'll notice that there will be a download button in blue located here for each of the different tabs. You can download all of this information into an Excel spreadsheet to track as well. So a lot of great information can be found here. I do want to note that you do also have the option to turn on notifications for all of these, because I see this is already a question that's prevalent throughout the questions. So if we navigate to the bell icon in the upper right-hand corner, this is where you can see your notification center. So you're going to find in your advisor portal, as we've been reviewing, this is a space to really streamline your workflows and to have a lot of management across the board for your clients, for your own experience and your client's experience. And that is true for notifications as well. So I've seen a lot of questions. How do I get notifications of these key events? How do I get notifications of when tasks are completed? Fantastic questions. So this notification center here, here's where you can see what notifications you've got upcoming, things along those lines. But under notification settings, this is where you check off what you want to receive communications on. So this first field is going to be referring to what you get included in the notifications center. So if you want this notifications right here to include everything listed, you just check and deselect things as you please. You'll see another facet to this communication as well. So there's the secondary option of including this in a daily report email. So these daily report emails are just once a day and can include everything that you have checked off here. And then the final facet to this communication and frequency is going to be sending an immediate notification email. Here you have 5 different options. So if you choose to invite clients and engage them in RightCapital, you can get notifications of when clients sign up to RightCapital, or if they complete the data entry process, and if they upload and download items from the vault. You also have the option to include in your daily report email notification center when clients complete tasks, update their information. And you can also review your own task assignments as well. So you can control how frequently you get notifications for tasks that are due soon and how often you get notifications for when tasks are overdue. Finally, this is where you turn on the notification for key events. So if you wanted to have that daily report email when we have a key event that's close to triggering, you can have that be included in this batch of emails as well. So this is how you control your notifications going into the new year. This is a great space to check in to make sure that you have everything aligned with what you want to receive communications on when your clients are using RightCapital, but also when you want your communications for your own overdue tasks and key events, for example. Now we're going to be shifting a little bit into our sample client for the day. So we're going to be looking at the Arya Baratheon family plan. Starting off with the tasks. So when we have this individual client, especially if we are going to be having that meeting with them, this is all stuff that I'm going to be reviewing that can be reviewed in that point in time, but it's also stuff to have and keep in mind when we are reviewing it before the meeting as well. So under dashboard tasks, this is where we're going to find that dedicated space for Arya and Gendry's Baratheon's tasks. And this can be where we have that conversation to also review what is overdue for the client's task and what has been completed for the year. So especially in that beginning meeting, this can be a great time to check in to say, this is all we've completed in 2023. There's been a lot of fantastic progress toward achieving our goals, towards completing these tasks, but we also have some future tasks to complete as well. And so if we're ready to do that beginning of the year checklist, we can also add that template directly into the individual client plan. We can do so by clicking on Add Task. Once again, you have the option to add a single task if desired, but we're going to be adding that task template. And we're going to include the starting the year off right checklist. And so we're going to have that due date be a little bit sooner because we're going to be pushing out that timeline, for example. And when I do so, you're going to see those all populate into the future tasks. And we'll see here those ones that are dedicated for the client and co-client. And we can also see the ones that I have for myself as the advisor as well. So as you can see, this can be another way to streamline that workflow for yourself. But there are other things to review when we are looking to have that beginning of the year discussion and to just make sure everything is aligned with our shifting priorities with the new year. So it's always helpful to go to the profile section and just making sure that everything is entered as accurately as possible with the shifting goals of 2024. So for example, looking at those things that we talked about earlier, if any of the goals have changed, if anything's already been completed, or if we have shifts in income, this is where we can go to review to make sure that everything is accurate for the current plan and the current path. With the new year comes new additions, but also the checking off of various goals. So for example, with my lifestyle vacation goal, I do know that this is going to be something that had already happened in 2023. They were talking about it for many years, and they've already completed this trip. But maybe they really like their Europe trip. They want to make it something that they're going to be recurring and having do it, that they're going to be committing to every other year. We can actually change when this goal starts. So if we wanted to have the start in 2025, they're going to be waiting till a year from now, since they just took the big trip, to start to continue on this as a habitual task. And we can change the frequency as well. So if we wanted this to happen every other year, we can change that frequency, and then we can indicate when the goal ends. So let's say we had that conversation with them. They wanted to commit to this for 16 years. And there's going to be just general inflation included, but we can change the inflation rate if desired, and we can hit save. And so now that we've reviewed that goals, everything else looks accurate, nothing's changed so far, we can move on to the profile income section. And so income can be that space where we check in to make sure the salary is accurate. We can talk about if the annual increase has changed, if it's going to be shifting with the future, if we're going to be having a little bit more of an aggressive career path that we might have taken. So maybe we had a modest increase to our salary. We can make those adjustments in the salary card as so. And it's a good time to check in to make sure that we are updating these numbers to accurately reflect 2024's changes. Similarly, if we have shifting income, we might be having shifting savings contributions, or it might be something that you recommended that in 2024, we start to save more. And so we can reflect that as part of the current plan by just changing their savings. So maybe it was a recommendation that in 2024, we start to save the maximum contribution for ARIA's 401k. You can make that shift into the savings card. We know that's going to be changing. So we can change from the target dropdown to maximum contribution and hit save. Moving on to profile expenses. Here we can find that current health insurance premium. So they currently do pay for their health insurance with their work, $350 a month. But as we know, for most employees and employers, they might have different calendar years, of course, but most of the time, the end of 2023 or the end of the years when we review our health insurance elections and savings elections. So beginning of the year might be the time where we have those conversations about what they've elected to change. And so let's say, for example, they did elect for higher coverage. We can indicate that here, we can make that change, and we can hit save. But one of the key insights that I want to offer too is you'll also notice that there are notes that can be found throughout each of these cards. So for example, with this particular note, I did leave a note for myself that this was last updated January 1st of 2023. We can leave a new note saying that this was actually updated 2024, January 5th. So we can click into this existing note. We can change the date. And you'll also notice the ability to be able to mark this as shared with the client or not shared. So this is something I want for my own record keeping. But if this is a communication that you wanted to have shared with the client, you would check off the eye icon and it will state shared with the client. In this instance, it's just for my own records. But we can also add a note. So maybe it's going to be something where we talk about adding the HSA contributions that we might be making, or FSA. So let's say we're going to be looking at our HSA in 2024. I can leave that note here. I can make sure it's shared with the client, and I can hit save. And what that means is that when the client logs in, if I've granted them access to RightCapital and to the expenses section, they would also be able to view that note. And if you download the notes as well in a PDF report, you will see anything that's shared with the client as included in that section as well. One key thing I want to note is the blueprint section is another space to have another way to check in on the current plan and make sure it's accurate. So you can have that high level overview here as well. So we can see what might need to be changed. We can also review the goals to make sure everything looks accurate in terms of what's starting this year, if anything, and what's starting in the future, and if there needs to be any adjustments. So maybe we had that conversation with the client. They wanted to bump up their trip. We could click onto this card and we can actually say that we wanted to change the parameters of this card directly here within the blueprint. So I can change this to a start in 2024 this year, and we'll see their goal map reflect those changes as well. So this is a great space to have that check-in conversation to review everything to make sure it's entered accurately for the 2024 year. It's easily digestible by clients. We've heard a lot of positive comments about this allowing for easier and smoother conversations, especially at the beginning of the year. There's a lot that can be talked about in these meetings. As you saw, our checklist is pretty extensive, but this can be a space to condense all of that and make it more digestible and take it bit by bit and have a smoother conversation about our shifting income, our expenses, things like that. And so maybe we also note that we are saving into an HSA in that conversation. We can also add that savings directly here as well. So I can go to add from this drop down, go to savings, and let's add that HSA savings. And let's say we're adding $1,000 a year. We can set who the owner is for that HSA. You also have the ability to indicate whether this is going to be a percentage of the salary income for the health savings contributions, an annual dollar amount, or if this is going to be the maximum contribution. And that will be the maximum contribution allowable by the IRS, which has already been updated for the new year. So don't worry about those contribution limits being updated. It's all been reflected for the start of 2024. So this is all accurate. Let's say we're going to be pursuing that new savings opportunity with 2024. We're going to select maximum contribution and we're going to hit save. And so that's how you can smoothly have that conversation, and they let you know if they're saving into an HSA. We can quickly add that in that conversation as well and make those changes directly here. So this can be that time to check in with the clients. But a good thing that you can also do is if you wanted to manage all of your notes across the board and have that review, we can go into the three dots in the upper right hand corner and go into notes. So here in notes, this is another way for you to check in at the beginning of the year to see what notes you've left throughout 2023. And if there has been anything that might have been overlooked or if it needs to have an additional addressment conversation for 2024. So here under notes, we can see all the notes I have across the board. You can also make changes directly here as well. So as I can see, I've got a note about the budget that this was reviewed 2024, January 3rd, but I also have one about revisiting our dining out category at our next meeting. That's already been discussed, so I can remove this or I can modify this if needed. So you can make changes directly here. You can re-enter what you wanted for the note, and this will feed over to the budget section, for example. You can also mark it as hidden from the client. So maybe I want this to be just for my own records from now on. I can mark this as not shared directly here and hit save. But I can also delete this. So since this was already reviewed, I can just remove this note. So that way we have a streamlined notes section. And this is another space to have that management profile. So we can manage our notes for this particular client and to see what needs to be reviewed or what is upcoming for review. You also have the option to add specific advisor notes. So this is just for yourself. These are for your own record keeping. And maybe this is a place where you leave some key insights for yourself. So especially with that beginning of the year meeting you might be having with the client, this is a space where you can leave a note for what you might have talked about in that meeting, or maybe something that you wanted to note for yourself to have in mind when you communicate with the client going forward. So let's add a note. And let's say they are engaged and looking to get married this year. And so that can be a key insight for yourself. You can also leave a nice little note about maybe their likes and dislikes and their behaviors. Maybe wanted to look at, keeping in mind that they spend a lot in dining out. So we can do spending habit. Dining out is often the highest expense each year. So this is a space to have those key insights and to review each year what those key insights may be, or anything you like in terms of having some additional communication for yourself. So this is all intended to really smooth out your beginning of the year process and throughout the year, and alleviate some of that burden of what you might have been remembering on your own, and have a lot of management sections for you to leverage in your practice going forward. And so I see you've got a long list of questions, so I want to make sure I can devote time to that as well. But I do want to point out that you do have some additional resources before we move on to questions. So one thing you'll see when you log into RightCapital and you're in your advisor dashboard, you will find the help button in the upper right-hand corner. This will lead you to our help center. This is where you're going to find a lot of really great articles on the data entry process, but you'll also find them devoted to topics that we're talking about today as well. So if you wanted to look at one such as the tasks module and what that means and different functionalities, you'll find articles on that as well. But you can also review all the different training videos and also webinars here. In the webinar section, you can always find past recorded webinars here as well. So if you're bored over the weekend and you wanted to start the year off even more RightCapital, you can always watch some additional content here. You'll find different ones on different modules. So if you wanted to have a more in-depth conversation about the enhanced vault that we have, look at a case study for anything, you can find some nice content here. But you'll also find under Contact Us Support, this will be an article that just lists out the ways you can reach out to our fantastic support team. So if you have more client-specific questions or in-depth reviews you wanted to do, especially before your big meetings for 2024, this is a great opportunity for you to leverage this support team to its full capacity. So the first thing you're going to notice throughout the system is this little chat bubble in the right-hand corner. You can use this chat feature to message the team directly and ask some questions, have that live walkthrough, but you'll also find here the phone number to call if you have questions and you wanted to talk with somebody over the phone or have a Zoom screen share, anything like that. And you also have the opportunity to book some one-on-one sessions to have a devoted time to answering your list of questions or a case review, especially before your big presentations of 2024.